Bases dropped on Soccer's morning show on a Wall Pass Wednesday. John, hear you there. And thanks for hanging out with us on the midweek. We got SuperDraft to talk about, especially where Atlanta United's concerned. We'll hear from Jaden Hibbert coming up in just a little bit. We've got some things that, we talked about other things to tease. And I'm still trying to figure out how to get the picture to work. But there are things to talk about there. We got news. We got news on this side of the planet, the other side of the planet, and we'll go through all of that, what to watch, where to watch it, those kinds of things, gossip, rumor, and innuendo. We had FA Cup yesterday, so there's plenty to talk about here on the morning show. Whatever is on your mind, yes. And happy schedule release day for those of you who are in a position to celebrate. We always ask that you celebrate wisely. Pace yourself. Schedule release day. SuperDraft was yesterday. Today's schedule release day. How much we will get during the show, don't know. We've had some teams already release their preseason schedules, all caps release their schedule for the preseason. But as we go, once again, we'll see what happens, traditionally in the 10 o'clock hour or in a news dump like 11:15 or something like that. When we're not on the air is when we start getting all of our things. So we will keep an eye on teams and the league and who's going to sit there and announce it first and who's going to sit there and go, okay, our first home match is X. And as Bart and Ricky have already told us this morning, once again, happy schedule release day. Bart is already starting to plan 2024 soccer trips. All right. That's QOD. Bart has unleashed. Oh, absolutely, Ricky. Bart has unleashed the question of the day without even knowing it. Ricky, why isn't MLS doing a schedule release show on Apple? Why MLS isn't doing a schedule release, if I could read properly. If doing a schedule release show on Apple seems like a big missed opportunity. Absolutely it is. You blow this ish up. And I guess this is opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. I don't know how many elements we're going to have in opening kickoff this morning, just on premise because of all the things that roll through our mind. So once again, there's your QR code for those of you who are watching on the SDH YouTube channel, on the Twitch, and on the 280-character app. Once again, don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. Thanks to those of you who have kicked off and are kicking off your day with our friends from Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right, there you go. QOD, as brought to us by Bart Keeler because he's ready to unleash his trips. Give me your trips this year. Where do you want to go? And I mean, it could be tied to Atlanta United. For Rich Ransom, it could be tied to Philly. Shooter could be tied to the Revs, although Shooter may just want to stay indoors. Caleb Porter, your new head coach in New England. So wherever your favorite team is, here in this footprint, somewhere else in Major League Soccer, let me know your trips for the year. And even if your team isn't going to a particular place, think outside the box. Is there a place that maybe during a bye week or a game that you have no interest in going to, you want to go someplace else? We're going to be like Fodor today. We're going to do soccer travel. And this will be a theme throughout the show here on Wall Pass Wednesday. Where do you want to go this year? Obviously, you want to go to the home games for your favorite club. Where do you want to go? What's on your list? What's your to-do list for this year? What's your accomplishment this year? Where do you want to go in 2024? Where's your itinerary going to take you in 24? Where do you want to go? For me, it's all caps because, and this is a byproduct of watching John T. Edge on True South, all of the places from all the different nationalities and all the different great eateries. And so now he's turning me into a foodie, and I blame John T. So I want to go see all caps. I want to go to that building. I want to go to City Park. And if there's a trip to Austin, go there. The boss likes to go to Austin, and we go to a lot of the Tex-Mex joints downtown. We always stay in the downtown district and Uber out to the stadium because it's a haul. Going all the way out to the stadium from downtown, it's a haul. So plan accordingly. If it's Austin, plan accordingly. Make sure that you know that taking an Uber to the stadium is going to take a while and that getting an Uber when the game is over is going to take a while. Last time we were there, you had to walk a good football field away from the stadium, and they had a 2-lane road where it was basically your Uber waiting stand. So that was the situation getting out of Q2. I don't know if that's improved or not. So I would probably say for the boss and myself, it would end up being some combination of all caps and Austin. That's what's on the list this morning, at least for me. Because I know the boss always enjoys Austin, and it would be a place that we've never been. So going to all caps would be the number one going forward. So QOD, what's on your travel itinerary for 2024? That's part of opening kickoff this morning anyway. So, and to Ricky, and to your point, it does seem like a missed opportunity. You need to have your schedule release program. And to be able to celebrate it the way that a particular football conference where it just means more, they have their own program. The National Football League on NFL Network has their own program to bust out the schedule. The grand reveal. This is a missed opportunity. I think it is. You need to have your grand reveal. Hey, Lionel Messi is going to be blank. He's going to be in your town here. Home opener here. You want to continue to hit this Lionel Messi thing as hard as humanly possible? That's what you do. When is Lionel Messi going to be in your town? Even if he may not play. But you set it up like that. You try to drive subscribers home the way that you did the second he hit the door last year. All of the ancillary programming, all the separate channels, the documentary that I didn't watch. All of that stuff. This is a missed opportunity by Major League Soccer. You need to have the grand reveal of the schedule. You need to have the half-hour lead-up. You need to have the half-hour pregame to sit there and it's like, okay, here's what happened. Season's just completed. Show the video of Patrick Schulte, which you should have done yesterday in the MLS draft show. But instead, you showed goals being scored. But that's what you do. You got to hit this hard, people. You got to hit it hard. And, yes, you did SuperDraft yesterday, but you need to put those same individuals in those same seats today, and you need to talk about your schedule reveal. You absolutely need to do that. Michael, hoping for Minnesota, Austin, and St. Louis. Okay, so we have some commonality there. Ricky, Austin, St. Louis, and Minnesota, not to be confused with Michael saying Minnesota, Austin, and St. Louis. I don't know if this is in order or not. I hope, Michael, I don't know if Minnesota is your number one, but Michael and Ricky might be sharing the same planes. Bart, Austin, St. Louis, Minnesota, and adding RSL. Rich, Austin, and since I now got your passport, Montreal. Okay, now, Jarrett can tell you everything about going to Stade Saputo. He's been. It is a fantastic environment. Jason has been. Great environment. So if you can find a way to get to Stade Saputo, go. And obviously make a weekend out of it. Try not to just have it be a suicide mission where you go in, you leave. You come back, you leave. Ricky, please no Austin on a Texas football weekend. Absolutely true. That is the God's honest truth. You do not want to have, and I would hope that the schedule makers, unless they turn it into like a doubleheader, where you're at DKR for like a noon kick or something like that, to preserve the 7:30 Eastern or the 8:30. Well, it'd be an 8:30, I would think. I think they would get the 8:30 kick, unless they would boost it forward, and it would end up being a 7:30 East, 6:30 Central. That would be an interesting scenario. So we'll keep an eye on that. Ricky, I agree. You want to avoid college football weekends in these same towns. Bart, for what it's worth, when he went to Austin for the World Cup qualifiers, stayed near the stadium so you could walk there and back, took public transport and Uber downtown. All right, smart play. Far smarter than I am. Rich, I need Austin on the same weekend as a race weekend at COTA. Okay, so then if that's the case, you probably need to stay downtown because the Circuit of the Americas is out by the airport. And the stadium is the other way. So downtown would be your midpoint. Absolute midpoint. So COTA by the airport and Bergstrom and everything else the other direction. So stay downtown in that case. But then you need to try and find a hotel room, and you might end up having to stay in like Galveston or something. Considering that we're talking about, see, Rich, if you want something on a weekend for the F1 race, you probably ain't getting a hotel. Rich says he did that for Nashville with Bart. Ricky says that his dad's trying to go to the Texas game, same weekend as the F1. Wow, get your tickets now. Get your hotel now. Rich says he's already planning to be there on Labor Day weekend for the WEC race. Don't know if I want to show. They'll drag it out for a full 2 hours for no reason. Yeah, yesterday went for about 36 minutes before they started to put folks on the clock. Hutch, no Austin during rush hours. And then Bart, at least with Austin, buses and trains go from downtown to the stadium. Nashville doesn't believe in public transportation. Michael, knowing MLS, they're going to schedule us at Austin, the UGA, and F1 Saturday. Hutch says Eldred make a good option. Rope says he'll probably only do Nashville and Charlotte. Bart, hopefully do Nashville and DRVP and K, as is tradition. Michael Valverde is rocking the Rwanda Musasa from Kickoff Coffee this morning. Nice cup of Joe. Morning, Michael. And may things continue to progress there in North Carolina for you this morning. So that is going to be one of the QODs, with this being a happy schedule day for those of you who celebrate. Where you want to go? Obviously, money's no object. Budget, no object. If there's a place you want to go, let me know. Michael's done with Nashville and Charlotte. Rich, yeah, well, you know what, Rich? It was great to see you when you came to Atlanta. Rich is thinking maybe he'll do a return to Atlanta. So if you're looking to return, you know that you will be welcomed with open arms. There will be a certain amount of ish talking, but it will be open arms. You know that. And it was great to see you and to have the photographic evidence of all of us hanging out in one place. It's always very cool. So that's the question for the morning. Happy schedule release day for all those who celebrate. So that's where we are. And where do you want to go this morning? As we wait for the schedule dump that will obviously happen after the morning show is over. A couple of things also as we continue to expand opening kickoff to cover a boatload of other topics this morning. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do this. Yeah, we'll do this. Why not? All are welcome. All are welcome. So, let me hit this. And this is just cool. From Jason's 280-character account. He says he's really excited to announce the first Atlanta Soccer Tonight event to benefit the local soccer community. The inaugural first goal, Thursday, January 25th, fundraising tournament, Topgolf Midtown. 92.9 The Game will be live from there. Special guests, raffles, prizes, and more. The event will benefit the mini pitch project from the Southern Crescent Soccer Foundation. You might have seen those pictures at the groundbreaking and the picture on an easel that was posted last week. Jason says this, seeking event sponsors, teams to play in the Topgolf tournament, individual players as well. Spread the word. Want to make this a big event for the kids. Night will also be a big kickoff to the 2024 season coverage on 92.9 The Game. Jason wants to make this a yearly hashtag Soccer for Good event to benefit local organizations using soccer to make our community a better place. Hope to see y'all next month. Sign up soon at scsoccerfoundation.com. So scsoccerfoundation.com, but reserve, if you would please, Thursday, January 25th, fundraising event for the Southern Crescent, Topgolf Midtown. Topgolf Midtown. So there you go. That's one of the first bolos this morning that's attached to everything going on. So let's see. Dell says, met you at the playoff game in 2018, I think. Rich says, all are welcome to Philadelphia. Michael's done with Orlando. Morning 4 card. And Michael Valverde wants to visit Cincy and Austin. So Austin seems to be an early contender for where a lot of folks want to go this year. Understandably so. I absolutely, like I said, I'm right there with you. All caps is one for me. And, Austin. Oh, no, Bart, we're getting there. We're getting there, Bart. You can yell all you want. You know what? Why don't you go ahead and start putting stuff in the queue? You go ahead and you can go ahead and rock and roll. Anybody wants to, because I do have sound from Jaden Hibbert, and we're going to play that in a little bit. But once again, you can catch the full Jaden Hibbert interview with Jason that aired on Atlanta Soccer Tonight. You can go to the Off the Woodwork pod on 929thegame.com and the Odyssey app, and you can listen to the full Jaden Hibbert conversation that Jason had with the number one draft pick for Atlanta United. We're getting into that. So go ahead and hit it. Go ahead and hit it with your comments about draft day. That's what it's there for. So there you go. Keep it going. All right. Let's see. What else was on my mind this morning in an opening kickoff kind of a thing? Okay. That's the other thing that was on my mind this morning, at least in an opening kickoff kind of thing. Okay. You know how we are, since we're doing Soccer for Good, we'll go ahead and continue that vein. Remember how I told you that we have reissued the Atlanta is American Soccer scarf. For those of you watching on the video, we've reissued this as a part of our holidays and as a part of our holiday wishes for Soccer for Good and helping to raise funds for our friends at the Marshall Islands. 25 plus shipping for the reissue. I will go ahead and tell you now that there will be in January, so this is a bit of a tease. In January, we are going to have a soccer scarf, say that 10 times fast, a soccer scarf that will have Marshall Islands input from the Soccer Federation, our friend Lloyd Hours, and everybody there in the Marshall Islands. We are collaborating on a scarf design to help out the Federation directly. And when we come up with price points and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be directly attached to the Soccer Federation in the Marshall Islands. They want to do some things here in the States in 2024, and we're going to help them out. We have a scarf specifically designed, and if I can figure out how to convert it from a PDF to a JPEG, I will put it up on the show and give you an early peek as to what it is. But it is a collaboration between SDH and the Soccer Federation of the Marshall Islands. They want to have an event here to try to discover talent and once again be a beacon for the Marshallese here in the United States. They're looking for an event during football season, like in October, and it probably will be where a great deal of the Marshallese are here in the United States. It will be Arkansas, Oklahoma, there in the Four Corners. But we have collaborated with our friends from the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation on a commemorative scarf, and the proceeds are going to help to try and fund those activities here in the United States in 2024. So the mock-up does exist. I have just yet to figure out how to convert a PDF into a PDF into a JPEG. So when I figure that out, or when I can show you something that can overlay me, then we can figure it out and I can show it to you. So there it is. I don't know if that's necessarily breaking news without a photo, but it's there. So, yeah, we are collaborating with our friends from the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation on an actual scarf that has Marshallese attached to try to help fund their activities here in the States in late 2024. So you have been summarily warned, hands in the air, hey, we're doing it, and we're trying to figure out the particulars, and then you can figure it out and go from there. So collaboration continuing. Once again, Southern Crescent Soccer Fed, January 25th, Topgolf Midtown. More details coming out in just a bit. And our scarves release is once again the re-release of the Atlanta is American Soccer scarf, the five-stripe scarf that we released. That is going back out into circulation to help out the Marshallese at 25 plus shipping. And then when the actual scarf can be shown, it should be available mid-January, like 3 weeks. So it should be available in about 3 weeks. And when we figure out price points and shipping and things like that, we'll let you know. So there you go. That is the other piece of Soccer for Good news this morning. So once again, we got plenty of other news to talk about. Nuno's been introduced on a 2.5-year deal. I weep for Nottingham Forest fans. And there was a big deep dive into the Athletic where apparently Allies told Steve Cooper to leave sooner because of, I'm guessing, Evangelinas Marinakis. Daniel Taylor came out with a piece this morning at The Athletic, and we'll go through that coming up in just a bit. So we'll go over SuperDraft. We'll go over all these kinds of things, everything going on in and around the world of the sport. And so here we go. All right, so that was opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee in various forms and fashions. There's your QR code for those of you watching on Twitch. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth game, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Okay, SuperDraft yesterday. Go ahead and hit me with your comments. Doesn't matter what your team is. We'll talk through it. But yesterday, Atlanta United picked at 19. And at number 19, I have to adjust my volume to make sure that it actually will play. Number 19, here's how it was announced on Apple TV.
With the number 19 overall selection in the 2024 MLS SuperDraft presented by Adidas, Atlanta United select a goalkeeper from the University of Connecticut, Jaden Hibbert. UConn, goalkeepers in Major League Soccer. It's worked out before. Andre Blake, a notable name. Jaden Hibbert saying, ball's not coming in my nets. Doyle, this is your alma mater. We got to come to you. What do you think?
Yeah, he did not test like a goalkeeper athletically at the combine. I think Miguel would have been a little bit jealous of his numbers. Just a fantastic kid from the Red Bull Academy in MLS next. The coaches raved about him. Now, there is a suspicion that he will go back to college next year, whether it's at UConn or Wake Forest. I think Devin might actually have more information about that. But this is a perfect example of the new normal for the Super Draft. A sophomore comes out, gets drafted, and rather than go straight into an MLS team, can still get a couple more years of experience in college. You love to see it, frankly, because I think it's good for the kids, it's good for the college programs, and it's good for the MLS teams.
So that was the point of view from the panel at Apple TV yesterday, and that was the selection at number 19 for Atlanta United. And so go ahead and let me know what you think. Go ahead and hit it in the Twitch pitch, folks. So whatever's on your mind after draft, doesn't matter what your team is yesterday, we'll talk about it. Rich is in travel, thinks the Union are due a visit to RSL. He'll go there. Dell, does anybody else want to get rid of the draft? Bart, somehow it's my fault that Atlanta United drafted multiple keepers despite everyone wanting us to sign younger keepers. And Ropes mentioned the trade of Garrison Tubbs. We'll get into that too. And Michael guessing Atlanta United saw a way to profit from him, also probably due to one of MLS's dumb roster rules. And Michael, that is, when it comes to Garrison, when a team comes knocking on your door, and Garrison had a fantastic college career at Wake Forest and was great coming through the academy for Atlanta United. And like I said, this is just me positing with Garrison Tubbs in this particular idea. So right now, Garrison Tubbs, acquired by DC United. And according to Tommy Scoops, Tom Bogert over at The Athletic, the deal was around $125,000 in GAM with another $150,000 in GAM add-ons. So for an individual, and you have to think about this, you think about this financially as well. For an individual who has not played a single Major League Soccer contest and a team that isn't quite as nuts at the moment like Chicago has been in throwing money around, man, I'd like to go to a party with the Chicago front office if they're just going to throw money around like that, or just go shopping with them, go down like Lower Wacker Drive or something, sit there. It's like, oh, there. And then the Chicago Fire front office says, okay, go buy it, You're looking at the possibility of $275,000 in GAM for an individual who has not played a single minute of Major League Soccer. $275,000 for a college graduate who hasn't played a minute. Somebody comes knocking on your door and says, you know what? We like that guy. Doesn't matter how many minutes he's played in Major League Soccer. Atlanta United obviously likes him too. You're going to sign him to a homegrown deal. But if somebody comes knocking on your door and says, you know what? We like him enough to where we will give you $125,000 in general allocation money, Garber bucks. And then possibly, because of performance metrics, you could get another 150 out of the deal. Let me take the team names out of it. Just take the team names out of it for a second. For an individual that has not played a single minute in Major League Soccer, another team comes knocking on your door. Hey, we saw you sign that guy. We like that guy too. We'll pay you 6 figures of allocation money in Garber bucks if you transfer him over to us. And like I said, take the names out of it. Take the franchise names out of it for a second. Something like that goes down. What would you say? For someone who hasn't played a minute, the promise is there from what he accomplished in college. But if a team comes knocking on your door and says, hey, you know what? Here's $125,000 in Garber bucks, with possibly another 150 in add-ons if he plays and plays and plays. What would you do? Especially if you have other things in mind like we talked about yesterday. If you're looking after Jonathan Mensah as an experienced mentor at center back, because you have Noah Cobb, Efren Morales, Luis Abram, that you have those individuals there that can be a part of your backline again next year or continue to grow. You bring in an experienced guy like Jonathan Mensah. You bring in the other individual that we were talking about yesterday, Stian Gregerson, 28-year-old with experience. And you have somebody willing, if you have your eye on experienced center backs to help you out as mentors and as starters with the guys that you have with the twos and the academy, somebody comes knocking on your door, says, hey, we'll give you six figures immediately because you're going to need that if you're going to try to bring in experienced folks. I mean, that to me seems like something that you can build off of. So that's how I'm looking at the Garrison Tubbs transaction. Not going to lie, would have loved to have seen him here just because of what we've seen from him developing through the academy and stuff. Not going to lie, I would have loved to have seen that just because of the attachment that we all have. Yeah, it's evil. Boca hates everyone. Absolutely. Yes, that is true. But just think about it in that prism for a second. Like I said, take the team names away. Somebody comes knocking on your door, six figures, plus another six if performance metrics are met. Now, like I said, if you're chasing after Gregerson in Ligue 2 and you're chasing after Jonathan Mensah, you got to find ways to pay him to have that experience at the back line. Let me double check now that I'm thinking about Jonathan Mensah. Let me see if I can find what Jonathan Mensah. Proceed. God bless America. It's like, all right, sidebar. How many of you have like massively encrypted? Michael, I can. We'll go through that too. Michael's looking for someone to recap what the draft commentator, one particular draft commentator said about Miles and Boca. And we'll also hear from Jaden Hibbert also here in the show. But if you want to bring in a Jonathan Mensah, then last season, Jonathan Mensah was $1 million base at San Jose. $1 million base, $1,025,000 guaranteed compensation, $1,165,000 and 2/3. So bringing in Jonathan Mensah would be either, Jonathan Mensah, you're probably going to have him as a TAM if that was to come through with that salary figure. Probably high TAM. So you've got to find a way to pay for him. That kind of experience. 33 years old, was in San Jose, won a cup in Columbus in the past. So he knows Major League Soccer. And Stian Gregerson, let's see if we can find out anything in regards to any kind of a salary figure. I know what his value was worth, according to our friends at Transfermarkt. Transfermarkt has him listed with a market value of 1.8 million euro. So my guess is that he probably wouldn't be making that, but that would be something akin to the transfer fee for Bordeaux. And we know that Bordeaux, since they're in the relegation zone in Ligue 2, needs all the financial help they can get. So you look at that. And Michael, like I said, because he's 34, it might be less, once again, just because of – now that you got me thinking about it, all right, let's take a peek at if I could spell Jonathan. Let's go through his minutes and see if what we can find. But we went through it yesterday, and it was pretty competitive. I mean, pretty much in every season he's been around, he's played a lot. He has played a lot. So career stats. 2023 in San Jose, 26 games played, 21 starts, just under 2,000 minutes. Pass percentage at 87.6. 22 at the Crew, 30 games played, 30 starts. 21 with the Crew, 29 played, 28 starts. Both years over 2,500 minutes. 2020, 23 games, 23 starts, 2,000 minutes. 2019, 24 games, 23 starts, 2,150 minutes. So literally every single season that he's played, short of last year, he's clocking in. Jonathan Mensah is clocking in, playing every minute known that he can grab. So to have that kind of experience at the back, you're probably going to have to pay for it. May not be that $1,025,000, but it would be a high TAM thing. So there you go. That would be what you're looking at from the Jonathan Mensah perspective. Market value for Steen Gregerson, once again, at 1.8 million euro. And it's been fairly constant. Like I said, I don't know what his salary figure is, but you figure it's going to be something where he's brought in. Once again, might be another high TAM deal. Now, yesterday, Michael wants to know about recapping what the draft commentators said about Miles Mboka. Short version is this. One of the commentators at the table, and I forget the actual word that was used, but the idea that there was angst involving any kind of negotiation with Miles and the front office. And then it was pretty much in the disgruntled, I think, was the word that was used. Disgruntled, that Miles was disgruntled. And apparently they also talked about how Atlanta had not offered a max deal. In the post-draft Zoom call, Carlos Bocanegra said, no, there was no disgruntlement and that they had offered a max deal. So Carlos Bocanegra obviously was disappointed that someone sitting at a table on the network broadcast said two things that were not accurate. And so that's basically, Michael, that's where it was. Someone on the table said two things that were not correct, according to Carlos Bocanegra. That the relationship, that there was some angst, that there was disgruntlement, and that they hadn't offered a max deal. And Carlos was disappointed that that was the characterization of the negotiation and the relationship with Atlanta United and Miles Robinson. So there you go. They offered, it was said in the post-draft Zoom call by Carlos, that they offered Miles the max under the DP threshold. So they went max TAM with Miles. And they challenged the notion that someone on either side or both sides were disgruntled. Just once I'd love to have somebody gruntled, you know? But I digress. So someone at the table, and for those of you that watched the coverage, you know who it was, said that one party was disgruntled and that they had not offered a max TAM deal. Both of those challenged after the draft was over. So that's what that was. And obviously, you know, when you I don't know where that information allegedly came from, but it was instantly challenged when asked about it after the draft was over. So we'll see what's up there. All right. So let's see. Garrison Tubb, I'm scanning here as I'm trying to see. I don't want to miss anything. And Dell. To Dell's point, Dell's always surprised there aren't more teams signing players from USL Championship. They've got to be the star of the walk. They've literally got to be the star of the walk. And they've got to be far and away better than a lot of other folks. and they have to be able to hold their place. I mean, it took Jack Gurr as an example. Jack Gurr with Atlanta United too. He got caught in a bit of a traffic jam, goes to Sacramento, and he's been gangbusters. Maybe that's Jack's level. I don't know. But you've literally got to be someone like, you've got to be like a Kyle Murphy. You've got to be like, an Arteaga, someone that is just far and away above everyone else. And then you can bring them in and hope that they fit, because that's another part of it too. It's not just, looking at somebody who, like a Trevor Ammon as an example. Trevor Ammon was gangbusters at Northern Colorado in League One. How will he translate to time in Sacramento? That will be a question. If he continues to grow, and Del, here's probably the example that I would think of off the top of my head. Fidel Barajas, for me, in Charleston, would be someone I would keep an eye on. And I know for a fact that if Fidel Barajas continues the track that he's on in Charleston, and this is someone that we all need to keep an eye on, Young Player of the Year in USL Championship last year. If Fidel Barajas continues the track that he's on, he will end up getting Charleston a fine fee. So Fidel Barajas will not be here much longer. And that will get Charleston a boatload of money that hopefully they reinvest in the right way and continue to sit there and go, okay, we found Fidel Barajas. Where's that next person that we can look at? But it's those kind of individuals that you would be looking at in USL Championship to hopefully fit into what you're looking at in Major League Soccer. So for me, it would be that kind of transformative young talent that you could put in a U22 slot that you could bring into Major League Soccer. But Fidel Barajas, for me, is an example of that kind of talent that you see in USL Championship. So that's where I would be looking at it here. And the discussion between Bart and Dell about it, Bart, as I sit here and come over the top of it because it's a rather long response, aren't that many USL players found success in Major League Soccer? Those that do are typically part of the system of the MLS team before making that jump. MLS teams have to pay a transfer fee for those players, which inflate their salaries in a budget-capped league. And Hutch gives us the definition of gruntle. See, just somebody once. I don't want everybody to be disgruntled. Just somebody once. Be gruntled and actually say it that way. Bart back and forth once again. Wasn't even an MLS team willing to pay for Jose Gallegos as a teenager. Don't see the value for the money they'd end up having to pay. How different are USL or MLS Next Pro from minor league baseball? Most players aren't getting to the major leagues. It's a little different. I think that when you have MLS Next Pro, there is a sense of development. Like if you think about it as minor league baseball, then probably look at it like AAA baseball maybe. And then that way the players that you have are a part of your system. In baseball, you could have guys with arms and you can have guys who can hit, 38 gazillion home runs in a season in the minors, but they're a part of your system. Baseball, where minor league baseball, it's arms, legs, and power. In soccer, it has to be folks fitting systems, folks fitting ideas, and doing things in a certain way. In Major League Baseball, you could have guys come up through your system. They could be like Greg Maddux. They could be guys that paint the corners. You could have fireballers. You could have guys like Tom Glavine who are lefties who sit there and they know how to make it work the corners, hit the fastball, the low 90s, hit the spots, that kind of a thing. You could have a guy like John Smoltz, Steve Avery, those kinds of things, as I sit there and date myself with all these references. Then you could have a guy like, Chipper Jones, who was great in high school, and you knew the talent was there. You start him out in the minors. He rockets through the minors, comes to the majors. Once again, it's specific skill sets that are more broad in baseball, if that makes any sense. The broader skill sets where pitching, it is out of the glove, into the mitt, and trying to get it past the batter. Batter, on the other hand, is trying to figure out how to get the ball out of the park, into play, advance runners, those kinds of things. Defense, you got a guy at second or shortstop, he might hit 240 or 250, but he's great defensively and can turn a double play. Those kinds of things. It's a little different. It's a little different than, it's not quite. It's not quite the same thing, but it's more system-based in soccer than it is where you have true athleticism doing specific tasks in baseball, those kinds of things. And Hutch, I'm glad you feel gruntled today. Thank you. Thank you for being gruntled. Dell and Bart going back and forth, didn't think a lot about the transfer fee. Feel like a lot of good USL players get overlooked. Had a lot of players from Charleston go. Alonzo, Michael Chang, Lamar Nagel, Todd Ryan Anunga. And Todd Ryan Anunga ended up in Nashville. And Todd Ryan Anunga has found a specific role in Nashville, and he's kind of amped it up a little bit than what he did in Charleston. He's become far more physical than he was in Charleston. And at times, he is far more physical than you need to be in a situation. But Todd Ryan Anunga has found a role for himself in Major League Soccer because Nashville, when they had their time in USL Championship, got to see the Charleston Battery, and you got to see a guy like Todd Ryan Anunga. Oh, that guy can fit what Gary Smith wants to do. So it has to do with fit and financials. And that happened because of that knowledge base that Nashville had in that year in USL Championship, where they got to look at a guy like Todd Ryan and I go, oh, okay, he'll fit. Hutch, no question that Maddox and Necro would have been interesting battery mates. Could you imagine those conversations? And to your point, Dell, yeah, Open Cup gives opportunities for Major League Soccer teams to see USL Championship players. And the talent difference, there is a gulf there, but it does give the opportunity for folks to show up and show out a little bit. So, the rest of the the rest of the draft for Atlanta United, by the way, let's hear from the new keeper, the new number one pick, because Jason had an interview with him on Atlanta Soccer Tonight, and here's a little bit of that, just a bit of a tease. Thanks to our friends at 92.9 The Game, the Odyssey app, and Jason.
How it felt to hear your name announced as a selection for Atlanta United in the MLS SuperDraft.
Yeah, I was smiling ear to ear. It was amazing. I've waited my whole life to have some type of accomplishment like this, and this is only the beginning. Everyone's got to start somewhere. It started for me when I was 4 years old. And at the young age of 19 to be able to have an opportunity like this, it's amazing. So I was ecstatic when I heard my name get called at the 19th pick in the first round of the 2024 SuperDraft.
When the rules shifted a little bit in the SuperDraft and underclassmen became draft eligible, was that something that excited you as a possibility of going pro earlier than finishing your senior year?
Yeah, definitely. When that news came out, I think everyone in the college world and college soccer started to buzz around and talk about it a little bit. So it only pushed my dreams even further, pushed my work ethic even farther. So it was a better thing for me. It allowed me to push even harder, search far and wide for more opportunities. So in the end, it worked out for me.
Now, you mentioned starting to play at 4 years old. Have you always been a goalkeeper since you started playing? What were your early experiences like as a kid playing youth soccer?
Yeah. So I grew up in, a small town, Teaneck, New Jersey, super diverse, great spot. So I got thrown into soccer as a 4-year-old, just, kicking around, running, just having fun. And when I was about 8, started to understand it a little more and started to play goalkeeper. Fortunately, I was bigger, a little stronger than most of the kids that age. So I was able to play goalkeeper 2 years up, which really helped me. Faster pace game, bigger guys getting used to shot stopping and just quick decision making rather than playing with 8-year-olds or something like that. And then for my actual age group, I would play on the field, usually right back, right wing-ish type of player. And I was pretty good on the field. I actually scored some goals. And I did that for about 5-6 years, playing 2 years up as a keeper and my regular age as a field player until I went over to Red Bulls Academy and just started strictly going with goalkeeper.
So that is part of the conversation that Jason had with Jaden Hibbert. And you can catch the rest of that conversation looking up Atlanta Soccer tonight at 929thegame.com. Go on the Off the Woodwork podcast, go to the Odyssey app, and you can catch the rest of that conversation with Jason and Jaden Hibbert. Just for the numbers, and this was another part of the element that is attached to this. Remember, this season you could draft sophomores. Traditionally, you couldn't do that. It was just upperclassmen. This season, you could have sophomores that you really had your eye on, and you get to hang on to them. So if you're really high on a sophomore, you can sit there and go, okay, hey, we'll pick him and hang on to him for a while. So basically, it's a draft and stash. I know it sounds kind of ugly, but you get to hang on to this player's rights, see how they develop. So now the question for Jaden Hibbert will be, do you go back to UConn or do you try it out for the twos? And you see what it looks like there. Do you come to the twos? Do you learn from Quentin Westberg, Josh Cohen, and Brad Gazan? Or do you go back to school for another year with your rights still being held by Atlanta United? So once again, Atlanta Soccer tonight, Off the Woodwork podcast, 929thegame.com. Jason, Jaden Hibbert, the full conversation's there and on the Odyssey app. Hibbert, 20 matches, 2 seasons, 56 saves, 3 shutouts in his second season. Game high 5 saves 3 times, 9 games, at least 3 saves. Big East Keeper of the Week twice. Atlanta United did not want to use every pick. And so we mentioned hanging out with a Chicago Fire. And guess what? The Chicago Fire said, you know what? Tell you what. We'll give you some Garber bucks for a pick. Atlanta United was like, sure. Pick number 4 in round number 2, the 33rd overall, went to the Fire in exchange for $50,000 in Garber bucks. Hey, you got somebody you got your heart set on. What's it worth to you? How about $50,000 in Garber bucks? Okay, cool. Once again, you're getting all of this money. $125,000 in GAM for Garrison Tubbs. Another $50,000 in GAM for a pick. Stockpiling all of this allocation money. You got your eye on something, but you need the money to pay for it in Garber bucks. Pick 19 in round number 2 went to Javier Armas, defender from Oregon State. Remember, Oregon State had a great year in the Tupac last season. 77 games, 71 starts, 5 seasons, 6 goals, 10 assists. All Pac-12, second team, sophomore year. Scored the goal that secured a share of the Pac-12 title. One of the 2 goals led to a win over St. John's in the second round of the tournament. 9 years for Deportivo La Coruña before in their academy before he came here to the United States. 12 goals in the 18-19 season, 28 matches, finished 5th in the Honor Division Group number 1. Real Club Deportivo La Coruña. Round 3, pick 14. Atlanta United traded that pick to the Chicago Fire in exchange for $50,000. You're getting Garber bucks for something. Pick 19 in round number 3 went to Casper Moles out of UK. For those of you that had the chance to catch Casper in the Sun Belt, it was Fun Belt. Save percentage of .670 in his time at UK. 63 saves, 6 clean sheets, 18 matches. So clean sheets 1/3 of the time in his sophomore season. 8-6-4 record. Shut out WVU, sorry, Bart, and Marshall. Fun Belt Conference All-Tournament Team, Preseason Defensive Player of the Year, All-Conference College Soccer News Men's National Team of the Week. Freshman year named D1 First Team Honoree. D1 Men's All-Southeast Region First Team Fun Belt Conference Keeper of the Year. His freshman season, 28 saves in 16 matches. So once again, you're grabbing folks and you're hanging on to them. And then that was the other part of it also, the Ricky mentioning that Miguel Berry's rights being traded to LA Galaxy. And once again, LA Galaxy sending Garber Bucks Atlanta United's way for Miguel Berry. All of this stuff, all of these pieces being added, all of this allocation money being locked into one place. It's like, hey, we'll take Garber Bucks from you, Garber Bucks from you. Hey, what about Chicago? Yeah, Chicago's setting money on fire. We'll go ahead and get some from them. So all of this stuff working its way through. Obviously, the front office has had some folks in mind, but to sign them and to have them under contract, and the way the league is currently structured, you've got to have the Garber Bucks to do it, to cover your expenses. So that's just a thought. Nick with a question, and thanks for watching on the YouTube. Do we use this money to buy down one of our DPs to retain Miles? That's up to Miles at this point. The question is, what does Miles want to do? And we talked about this last week when Cincinnati went full Cruton at TQL, and they had the welcome sign and the lighting going around TQL Stadium, welcoming Miles to Cincinnati as a part of the recruiting process. And by the way, happy early signing day for those of you who celebrate, in addition to it being MLS schedule day. But honestly, Nick, that would be to Miles. That would be what Miles wants. What does Miles want to do? And I don't think if Atlanta United has offered him a max TAM deal that they would take that extra step and go up and go DP. I think if you had that fourth DP, yeah, max TAM. Max TAM is where we are. Max TAM is where we are. And that was what was brought to the floor yesterday. They've offered him max TAM. But we talked last week about the CBA and where Miles may be stuck in his salary figure. So we'll keep an eye on that. It is also discussed, various soccer writers and such, that Miles wants Walker Zimmerman type money. And once again, we go to our friends at MLS Players. Walker Zimmerman's base last year was 1.8. Guaranteed compensation over $2 million. So if Miles wants that, and Atlanta offered max TAM, I don't think that you're going to end up with these two combining. But what does Miles want? What does Miles want? Does Miles want the payday? Does Miles want to play for a contender? All those kinds of things. Ricky will get to that in a second. And thank you for the heads up. What does Miles want to do? Does he want to go to Europe? I think if he went to Europe, he'd probably get the payday that he's looking for. I don't think he can get that payday except in a couple of different situations. And then what does Cincinnati do? If any club gives Miles a DP slot, how do they rework the rest of their finances in a cap league to make sure that everything else is okay? There have been other situations with other clubs where folks have wanted $11 gazillion, and you pay that person $11 gazillion, and you hamstring the rest of your roster build. What team, if Miles wants Walker Zimmerman kind of money at 1.8 or plus, $2 million plus, what kind of money or what kind of club can afford to do that and not hurt their entire roster build? That's the question. So we'll keep an eye on that. Put a bookmark in that. We got breaking news, and we got to talk about it here. So, I can find, where's my breaking news drop? You're sitting there, you're looking for breaking news. Yeah, let's do that. Word out of U.S. Soccer, and here's the statement. We'll go ahead and read it in full. Major League Soccer has requested to allow MLS Next Pro teams to represent MLS in the 2024 Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. After thoughtful consideration, we have informed MLS that the U.S. Soccer staff recommendation, which was adopted by the Pro League Task Force, is that the request be denied. As we move forward, we'll continue our review of the Open Cup to ensure it aligns with U.S. Soccer's strategic pillars. We remain committed to addressing the needs and concerns of all of our members, including Major League Soccer and other stakeholders, to enhance and improve the U.S. Open Cup. And joining us, it's good to have him back because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Dylan Butler, good morning.
Good morning. I apologize for the
no worries.
Weird avatar there. I still haven't figured this out.
It's all good. So we have the breaking news from U.S. Soccer, sir, about Open Cup. MLS requested the Next Pro teams to represent, and the folks at U.S. Soccer are denying the request. So no MLS Next Pro teams allowed in the Reindeer games this year for Open Cup in 2024. That literally just broke.
Yeah, it did. We don't have enough time, I think, to break down all of the nuances of the Open Cup and its issues. I will say this. Can't there be a mechanism in place which allows an MLS expanded roster to include Next Pro guys?
Mm-hmm. Or the inverse, yeah.
And under that, say, Atlanta United, New York Red Bulls, whatever it is, umbrella, be able to utilize those kind of guys and your reserve guys and play them in the Open Cup in the early rounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, or as long as you want to have that particular scenario. Yeah, I mean, you could have it as first team. And I mean, look, LAFC in the past Open Cup in the early rounds, because of their schedule compression, because of the then CCL, now CCC, the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza, basically brought up everybody from LAFC 2, said they were going to do it, did it, tried to lose, couldn't lose, and advanced in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a romantic about cup competitions. I love the FA Cup. I think I've said it to you before. I love those like early round games that we get on TV where it's, a guy with his dog in the stands, and this guy's a cab driver, and this other guy is the bartender in the pub that's adjacent to the stadium that holds 12 people. Like, dog and red against whoever. Like, I love these games, and the same is true of the U.S. Open Cup. And I just wish in this new world of expanded competitions and expanded match congestion, I guess, that MLS would find a way to still compete. I think it's an important tournament.
Yep. And Major League Soccer, once again, thanks to our intrepid producer, Ricky Ricardo. So the statement, Major League Soccer recently proposed to U.S. Soccer a plan for MLS Next Pro teams to represent the league in the 2024 Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. MLS took that step because it believes there are several essential goals and concerns that must be addressed in connection with the tournament, including developing young professional players, providing them with greater opportunity to play before fans in meaningful competition in a tournament setting, prioritizing player health and safety, reducing schedule congestion for MLS clubs, and enhanced investment from U.S. Soccer. U.S. Soccer has subsequently notified MLS that the Federation is not prepared to grant the necessary waiver for MLS Next Pro clubs owned by MLS owners to participate in the Open Cup. Independently owned MLS Next Pro clubs such as Chattanooga FC and Carolina Core remain eligible for the 2024 Open Cup. MLS is committed to finding a viable solution for the 2024 tournament and is working to find a pathway that addresses its goals and concerns moving forward. MLS will remain focused on increasing opportunities for up-and-coming players, a key component of the league's player and development strategy that ultimately benefits the U.S. national team program. End of paragraph, end of statement. So there you go. That's
I mean, good. Listen, good on U.S. Soccer. I think for pushing back, and hopefully again this results in a solution that we see it around the world. I mean, there's match congestion in look at Newcastle, for example, right? My team.
There you go.
Just played in the Carabao Cup quarterfinals with basically the same 11, more or less, that we played in the weekend. That then we played the previous Tuesday or Wednesday against AC Milan. That we played the previous week. Like, you just can't do it. You need to be able to utilize reserve players, especially for the early rounds. I think by the time you get to the quarterfinals and you're a couple games away from a Champions Cup spot, then yeah, you go with your big guns, right? But I don't think punting on the tournament is the answer. I think there's, I don't know what it is, but I think there's got to be something in there. Like I said, maybe it's a greater leeway to utilize more next pro guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
as first team guys in those games.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if you're Major League Soccer, just expand your roster rules for Open Cup.
Yes,
and obviously you've got to consult with the PA and look at the CBA and make sure that you do it on the QT. So if the VC finds out about it, we wouldn't all end up in KP.
And all of this is TBA.
Yes, absolutely. And so it seems to me that the folks in New York, what they should do, look at the collective bargaining agreement and have MLSPA on speakerphone. Hey, yo, Scott Hall there, complete with the with the toothpick. So, I mean, legitimately, this seems to me like what MLS should do from the league office. Speakerphone in a room, closed doors, long table. Hey, yo, MLSPA. What does the CBA say about this? Or can we grant a waiver for the tournament, add some kind of addendum, sit there and expand roster rules, blah, 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 blah. So we're not sitting there and about, trying to figure out, is there an issue for someone who is not MLSPA approved, whether it's college or, what have you, academy, what have you. Make sure that they are okay with a roster, like a college player, an academy player, or a next pro player being a part, or you look at it as the inverse. If you sit there and it's like, look, okay, my MLS Next Pro team in name. Look, we see this all the time with players from the first team that are on injury reassignments. Where do they go? They go to the second club. They go to the second team to get the kinks out, to get back to full song. So, I would think that the inverse could be just as true if you send first team players down to be a part of the MLS Next Pro roster to be a part of Open Cup. I could see this working one of two ways, but obviously if you want to sit there and attach the idea of, okay, you can't have Next Pro players, all right, it's got to be MLS. So, okay, fine. Let's look at the CBA. What happens for academy players, college players, guys that we want to bring in, to be a part of this whole thing? There should be a workable solution here. as long as the PA is consulted and is a part of the process, and then we can all be happy and have a, we can all skip down the yellow brick road by the time we're done. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think listen, so many fans they clamor for the next one, right? Like, hey, who's this great right back that I keep hearing about, or who's this 16-year-old that we have on, through our academy or in Next Pro, whatever it is. And I think this is an opportunity, I think, then to see those guys, right? But I think there is truth to, and we spoke about this as well during the Open Cup. There needs to be better visibility. Let's make a bigger investment in the U.S. Open Cup. I'm not saying everything's got to be on Apple TV, obviously, but to have to, like, some of the feeds were horrible.
Yep.
Right. Like we do high school sports and our feeds are better. We've got more cameras utilized, seemingly with better technology than was utilized in some of these games. Right.
Yep.
Like some of them look like it was just on an iPhone.
Yep.
So along those lines, I mean, I don't think that's necessarily part of the concern for MLS in this. But that's part of my concern, right? Let's not treat this as some minor event.
Right. And I think that's key in all of this. I mean, to your point, you mentioned your beloved Newcastle. I think we did the math yesterday. Manchester City, when we were talking about, I think Manchester City played 71 matches last year. So 61 or 71, some number that was astronomical because of all the different competitions they were in and all this kind of stuff. So if they played 38 in league, plus Champions League, plus FA Cup, plus Gummy Bear Cup before they got blown out of it, plus Club World, or all these other I think it was 61 matches. So they played 61 matches last year. LAFC played 53 matches last year. And I think that in LAFC, once again, they tried to tank out of the Open Cup, which to me would be even more of a concern if I was U.S. Soccer, where they stood up and said, look, we're bringing twos. And now you're going to sit there and kvetch about twos being the active part of the roster or the active part of the engagement when it comes to Open Cup. So, LAFC, because of their own success, played 53 matches last year. And they tried to get out of it and still couldn't do it right. It's just, I mean, there has to be a solution here unless something is in the CBA that says that something could go wonky or that you're not allowed to do a certain thing.
Yeah, but the overall answer is probably similar to what we see in New Mexico, right? Bring out a lot of those triple-digit guys.
Mm-hmm.
For so many of these different competitions.
Yeah, absolutely. And just make sure that the CBA doesn't flinch and the PA doesn't flinch when you see. But then how different is actually saying? How different is it putting it in writing that we were going to have extra investment from our second team and have those triple-digit guys in there? How different is it saying that you're going to do it versus just having a roster and on game day have a bunch of guys that are triple digits? I think, what is it, officially just making sure that you have to have it on paper and making it officially official that, yes, we're going to do things this way instead of just dropping roster dudes in there for Open Cup with a bunch of first teamers. I guess that's the difference. But I think that it's frustrating on a bunch of different levels here, where it seems like, and of course, we don't know the legalese, but it seems like the solution is right there. But I think the legalese might be blocking the way.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. We haven't had you on in a while. First off, how was Thanksgiving, and what are you looking at for Christmas?
It wasn't that long ago, was it?
Yeah, it was.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I mean, Thanksgiving was good.
How is Christmas in the Dylan Butler household, by the way?
How is it?
Is it showy? Is it big? Is it kind of calm? Do you have to travel a lot? What are you doing?
No, we break that up. We break up the travel between like 2 or 3 days. This year, 3 days. I think think Saturday I'll go into my mom. She's in Queens, super close to my new stadium.
There you go. Dylan Butler States, yeah.
So that's nice.
Yeah.
And then Christmas Eve will be at my wife's side of the family, one of her cousins' houses, and then Christmas is obviously in my house first, and then we'll go to the in-laws, which are like a 3-minute ride away. So
there you go.
Yeah, that's good.
What's on your Christmas list? Are you going to get the pony for Christmas? What do you got?
Well, my ultimate list has a Ram 1500 on it, but I don't think that's coming.
Well, but can you
in Duke blue, by the way? So if any of the listeners are super generous,
well, then let me ask you this:
yes,
do you have a parking space that could fit it?
Yeah. I have a nice sized driveway.
Okay, just checking. We haven't had the chance to talk about coaching carousel and coaching changes.
Yeah.
We still have some vacancies. Bruce Arena is back in the mix for something, and now you've got, let's see, Red Bulls have their guy. New England has their guy. Montreal does not. Minnesota has an interim. Who else is in play? Is DC still in play? Is that what we're thinking? Is that where we think?
DC is in play with the rumor of a potential arena return.
Okay. Because I was thinking it might have been John Harkes initially to go to DC after he left Greenville Triumph in USL League One. But now with Bruce Arena having been reinstated, and we still don't know what Bruce did or didn't do, he's back. So I
would love. DC makes too much sense, I think, just to sort of maybe bookend his professional career, right?
Right.
With the club that he made an early dynasty in this league. But I'm also, just for the whats and giggles, I would love to see him in Montreal and then try to fight through speaking French in one of these press conferences.
Oh, that would be tremendous. And you get cranky Bruce Arena trying to deal with things in multiple languages.
And an owner that isn't the most common his own way either. So
yes, that is true. And that's the thing, is that anybody who wants to deal with Montreal, and right now we're looking at Laurent Courtois, Pomadou Ka, and Savarese, and Gio Savarese, who have apparently interviewed for that particular position. Do you want to deal with all the ish of a stadium named in third person, after the owner? It's my barn, so it's my stadium. Do you want to deal with all of that stuff? And that would be the other thing about Bruce. If Bruce was to go to Montreal and have to deal with Joey Saputo, it might be like Billy Martin and George Steinbrenner.
Yeah, that's not happening. And I I know that I think he would want to have some sort of setup like he had in New England, but I don't think that's there for him right now, anywhere really, right? Like, Ali McKay is at DC, so they have that person there. So there isn't that sporting director coach role out there for him. I think he would just have to be the head coach at wherever he ends up going. Again, I just think in many ways DC makes the most sense from what's left out there, obviously. But you have Chris Armas as well in Colorado,
right?
You have Dean Smith,
Four Corners.
Nothing like Dean Smith in Carolina. So although again, I'm a Duke guy, so I'm more of a guy.
Well, but you can't quite do Four Corners if you're Charlotte FC, though. I don't think.
I mean, unless you got guys who can ping that ball really well, man.
Yeah, you sit there and you just go four corners the whole time and try to lull the your possession numbers would go up, but I don't know if you get any shots on net. But no, that's got too many jokes that could be attached to it with Dean Smith and Charlotte. When you look at these new guys, we talked about Armas. Caleb Porter is not the Caleb Porter that we've known in the past.
You know what's funny about Caleb Porter is he I hate to make this comparison, but he's almost like the MLS Jose Mourinho, where he gets success, but his window, or like a John Tortorella, right? Like, he's not long for any one place. Like he's like some meteor. Like he'll find success, but 2-3 years he's out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like he's worn out his welcome. So whatever his messaging is, or his method of delivering the message, it works in the short term, not in the long term. So
yeah, no, I think that your personalization of turning him into John Tortorella is a great soccer reference. And so Jarrett's going to join us for the tail end of this particular segment with Dylan. Jarrett, yeah, we've been spending time talking about the press release fight.
What you would be discussing.
Yeah, with the press release fight that is going on right now among MLS, the U.S. Soccer Fed, and apparently the USL has decided to add to the press release fight this morning.
I imagine everybody is going to. I imagine we're going to get everything from like Nisa on up.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're also in coaching carousel, and Caleb Porter, Dylan's on fire this morning. Dylan has said that Caleb Porter reminds him of either late career Jose Mourinho or John Tortorella.
Jesus. I don't disagree. I mean, hey, Dylan, we talked about this before, man. They're like, yeah, like it feels like the later he gets into his career, he is getting more Jose, like both in confrontation and style, man. It's I don't know how deep the turtle can go into its shell, though.
That's pretty deep. But I mean, when you look at these new hires, Dylan, who do you think has the most, I guess, the closest idea of having success? I mean, how successful do you think Armas is going to be in Colorado? Are they going to give him the leash that he needs to do things his way? Is the late career Jose Mourinho going to do well in dealing with the baloney up in New England? I mean, how, when you look at these new hires, who's going to be successful, do you think?
I think Porter, short term, I think he'd be the guy to be the most successful. I hope that Armas is given the ability to succeed. I think he'll get a long enough leash, but again, it's the question of, will there be enough investment? Yeah, I mean, I think personnel wise, you've got more to work with, right? If you're Porter at this point in New England, than probably any of the other new hires, right?
Yeah, I would think so. So you laid out your Christmas plans. You've laid out your Duke Blue Ram F-150 Christmas wish. What else is going on with you in Varsity Media, MLS Soccer, and OSDB? Do you actually have time to yourself?
Yeah, no, it's Varsity Media. Our next broadcast, I think, is January 5th. So nice little break from the end of football season, which ended a lot earlier for me than you. But so on that side, yeah, it's good. And then as is always the case, as a year ends, like OSDB, like, you start to churn out some of those top 10 stories in American soccer. That'll be in 2 weeks' time. That'll be on New Year's Day.
Okay.
And then on Christmas Day is the aforementioned coaching carousel. And there's that other one too that's interesting in Minnesota, where it's just sort of like,
oh God,
we're gonna hold off for now because our guy hasn't gotten acclimated yet. So
yeah, our technical director is not going to be here till after the first of the year, so we're going to hang on to our interim, and he's going to be our coach while our guy comes over to this side of the Atlantic and impacts the colonies.
But I would argue, honestly, like that guy might have the ability. Like I think that team's a sleeping giant, right? I mean, I don't think they're too many pieces away from being a really good team, as long as you have the right guy in there to manage that. So, whoever that hire is, could be that guy.
Yep. All right. So are you going to be able to join us to talk about the year in review next Wednesday? Or are you going to be with family?
Yeah. What is next Wednesday? Next Wednesday,
27th.
27th. I should be good.
Okay. Good. Well,
I know my daughter is off from school. I have to consult with the GM here.
Yes, understood. The boss needs to be consulted.
Yep. But I'm hopeful.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to it. So once again, Dylan, as always, thanks for hanging out with us on Wednesday to go over breaking news. And I'm sorry to drop that on you, but that was
no. I started at the same time you did. It's all good.
And so we'll catch up again next week, my friend. Thanks for hanging out.
All right, boys.
All right. That's Dylan. So Jarrett, to add to the paper press release street fight, the USL came out with their 4 sentences, and I feel like we need to have some kind of like music underneath, United Soccer League clubs have,
Benny Hill music.
Yeah, it might be yakety sax at this point. United Soccer League clubs have competed in the Lamar Hunt Open Cup for nearly 30 years, including 46 USL clubs in the 2023 edition. We believe the Open Cup is an historic and integral part of America's soccer culture. We stand with fans across the country who want to see it remain an authentic and inclusive competition. Regarding the future of the Open Cup, we will continue working with our owners in U.S. soccer on what the tournament will look like going forward. Ricky. Ricky. USL with the Nana Boo Boo statement. Yeah.
I mean, everybody was kind of blindsided by the entire thing in the first place, and now you have U.S. soccer. Good. Just saying what they said.
Right.
Tell them no.
Yeah.
This is U.S. soccer is out here parenting everybody. No. You cannot run your kids out there.
Yeah,
MLS is going to have to figure out their own rules to fit into this, though. About it's by all accounts, dude, just do what we talked about before. The Occam's razor here is play the Open Cup games, play your kids. However, you need to modify your own rules to do that.
Yeah,
do that.
Yeah, I mean, literally,
as the folks over at the Cup.us have said, U.S. Open Cup rules are if the roster's legal, it's legal.
Yeah.
Hey man, you live your best life.
Yeah, but I think at the same time, we talked about it with Dylan, is expand your roster rules or idea. Check with the MLSPA, and counteract it with the wording of the collective bargaining agreement to expand your rosters to include academy, whatever designations you want.
Well, that's different because academy players will be tricky though, because you would have to make sure and run that by the NCAA, because you don't want to run academy kids out there and burn their college eligibility. You know what I mean?
Right. And I guess what I'm referring to would be the those individuals that are with you with MLS Next Pro.
Because it should be that simple, but it's not, because we talked about this before. You can play Next Pro games, you can play USL games, and keep your college eligibility.
Yeah.
Or you could when you were playing with a second team when the second team was in USL. Those guys were playing. We sat there and watched guys like Will Riley, like Garrison Tubbs, play in USL matches, and then in a professional league, the second division league in this country, and then go play in college. But if you play for an MLS team, you'll burn that eligibility, and so that right there is where you're going to have to figure out what you're going to do if you're MLS. And I mean, that's a whole other conversation you would have to have with the NCAA about academy players. But yeah, you should be able to hey, anybody from the second roster wants to come up, let them. But you got to figure out how you can do that, how you want to do that, how you can make it work, and amend things. I think the dumbest outcome here would be if MLS just took the ball and went home and didn't plan. And I don't know how much of this also has to do with the players' union protesting the schedule overall. It's just it's such a weird situation now. It's such a bad look, but I feel like this whole look be addressed. Just
Yeah.
Just be like, fine, and then we'll do what LAFC did, man.
Mm-hmm.
Send a bunch of kids if you don't care about it, because some teams do care about U.S. Open Cup, and that's always been a thing. Atlanta's taken it seriously. Seattle has taken it seriously. Dallas obviously takes it very seriously. Lamar Hunt and all that connection.
I found the game in question.
Okay.
It was the matchup against Monterey Bay back on May the 9th in the Open Cup. And
LAFC took like a bunch of kids. They basically took the cast from Magic School Bus to go play Monterey Bay and won.
Yeah, and they had to. It took them a while, but the lineup in this particular game, and I've posted the link to the article in the Twitch pitch. It was in the round of 32. 2-2 after overtime, and they actually had. I mean, they were trailing, and then all of a sudden they decided to come back and send it to extras. So, and this is how it was phrased by LAFC. This is in their press release. The young LAFC lineup featured 6 starters from LAFC 2, as head coach Steve Cherundolo opted to rotate the team as the Black and Gold prepares for CCL's final against León. Against Monterey, Christian Torres in his Open Cup debut, Monterey Bay, scored first. So LAFC, with a 2s lineup, had the lead at Monterey Bay. They couldn't even tank properly. Leveled the score. Monterey Bay levels the score in the 90th minute. Took the lead in the 95th. They play the extra 30. Then LAFC, with another LAFC 2 forward, 18-year-old Mateus Maya, tied the score at 2. The keeper for LAFC was Eldin Jakupovic. He scored a goal and made 2 saves, including the game-winning save in the 6th round of PKs to help them advance past Monterey Bay. So that was the game. 6 starters from LAFC 2. 6. Steve Cherundolo said, he admitted, we're rotating. We are rotating. Bottom line. And they still made it through to the round of 16 at that point.
And so, to Taka's point, like, here's the problem with UCLA, though. Like, as for the UCLA, kids can play next pro, and they're playing the same kind of teams. Doesn't present a real difference. In theory, you're absolutely correct. But the NCAA is constantly huffing whatever helium they can extract from the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not trust the NCAA to make a rational decision as far as I can throw them. It would be right up the NCAA's alley to take what you're saying, which is incredibly logical, and say, no, that's not how it works. Why not? Because we said so.
Yeah.
And that's just the way the NCAA works. They're just constantly trying to find ways to overcomplicate literally every situation to a degree that, and I know the low-hanging fruit is, like MLS, but MLS aspires to be as complicated and unnecessary as the NCAA acts on like a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. So I found the lineup for LAFC, and I'm going to say LAFC because that's technically who played Monterey Bay. Eldin Jakupovic was in net. Your starting lineup. How many of these names do you know? Noah Dollenmeyer, Jeremy Rodriguez, Diego Rosales, Javan Romero, who was subbed for Mateus Maya in the 101st minute, Daniel Crisostomo, Eric Duenas, Christopher Jaime, Armando Avila subbed for him in the 85th. Nathan Ordaz, Yekison Suba, Laji Male was his substitute in the 70th. Christian Torres and Brian Moyato subbed for him in the 105th. Subs not used. Abraham Romero, Dustin Aguirre, and Jeremy Batioya. How many, unless you are a diehard black and gold, maybe Denholm would probably be the guy that would know both of those groups more than anybody. Their play-by-play guy, Dave Denholm. Legitimately, I could not tell you how many of those individuals even got first-team minutes this year for LAFC. So if you want to keep it literally, as you said, from the cup.us, they were like, they look at the rules a lot. They look at the rules a lot. And if the roster, here's how they phrase that 280-character communication you were talking about. The cup.us, quote, I want to be very, 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 in all caps, clear on this. We've read the Open Cup rules a lot in all caps. U.S. Soccer has 0 in all caps, and I mean 0 in all caps, restrictions on the roster that MLS teams can put out in an Open Cup game, none whatsoever. If a roster is league legal, it is Open Cup legal, period. So that's what you're staring at here. With that roster that we just mentioned from LAFC and Monterey Bay from May, if those individuals got the okie doke from Open Cup and U.S. Soccer, whatever guideposts were followed there by LAFC, that's probably the model that you use going forward if you are Major League Soccer and you want to be involved in this tournament. Yeah, Rich, we read the USL 4-sentence. We've got to get in on this press release palooza today. So, I mean, it is obviously this is probably the more vocal beginning of this argument that everyone felt compelled to sit there and go, and yeah, as a part of this. The party of the first part and the party of the second part probably just need to go behind closed doors. Glass partitions, maybe smoky glass so folks can't see what's going on. Soundproofing. Get all the different parties on speed dial. Hit speaker in a room and hash this out. It seems like, Jarrett, that there are solutions that have reference points. Like I said, that's why we brought up the LAFC Monterey Bay game as an example. Reference points like that can be brought forward so the competition can be preserved in the format that we're used to seeing.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, and to Rich's point about, would they adjust the next pro schedule? I don't think they would. They would just do the same thing. They go ask your local MLS Next Pro manager how everything works during the week.
Yeah,
because it's so hard to get consistent training time with the Next Pro team, because anyone who's like in the in-between level, or and by in-between level, I'm saying like the Robbie Mertzes of the world, the Nicholas Firminos of the world, who's like, hey man, they're playing here, they need to be playing a step up from here or two. Yeah. They're training with the first team. Promising young players, a lot of times, training with the first team. Like, Jay Fortune spent most of his season with the twos last year. He's training with the first team a lot. Like, a lot of these guys do. And because you're asking them to show you something during those training sessions. They'll just do what they always do, which is like, hey, we're taking these guys. If y'all want to have like a y'all's training session, you're going to have to pull some guys out of the academy, because that's generally what they do. And that's probably what they would do, is like, probably just be like, hey, taking half the roster for MLS Next Pro up to play with the first team for the U.S. Open Cup. And it would be cool. I mean, you get a bunch of like kids who like get that moment to put on the first team shirt and play in an old competition that I thought everyone loved.
Yeah.
I don't know if everyone really loves it, at least.
Everyone may not love it as much after all of this.
Well, the thing as well is we do this a lot as a society, where like people love U.S. Open Cup, and you got a lot of this when the news broke in the first place, where it was people love the idea of the U.S. Open Cup more than the U.S. Open Cup itself. That's not to discount the sickos among us who like will pull up U.S. Open Cup games anywhere. Hopefully, everything's
that are even shot by through potatoes. Yes.
Oh yeah, shot through a potato, like Christos with fans sitting on the berm, with a jersey that has that has a sponsor that looks like something out of Bad News Bears.
Hey, Chico's Bail Bonds got them a title.
Man. Yeah, but I don't know what they'll do. I don't know what the logical move here is, but more importantly, I don't know if anyone goes for the logical move or if they just start like screaming into the abyss.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be the latter.
No, we're already getting everybody and their mother putting out a press statement.
We haven't yet.
I don't want to put one out.
I have no intention of doing so.
I'm not putting out a statement on this. That's on you if you want to put one out.
That's what this last hour and 45 minutes has been all about.
Man.
We wanted to talk
you're just
about
gonna have
schedule
a nice
release
Christmas
day,
week.
and we end up with this.
You think you're just gonna have a nice, easy stroll through the Christmas holiday?
Oh no.
And then
No.
you get the statement.
No. Not happening.
Yeah, and so the trick is, I guess for me, is to figure out, like, the question then becomes to the point about, the Cup.us. Go follow Riley and them because they're great. Mm-hmm. Like they are the sickos we all aspire to be. A lot of it has to be, how does MLS make their roster compliant?
Yeah.
They're going to have to discuss because if you're staying in here, you need to discuss it with the MLSPA.
Yeah.
You need to get around a table with MLSPA and say, look, we're still going to do this competition. Let's discuss our standing agreement that we currently have.
Yeah. And
see what changes we need to make.
Yeah. So
that we can put, so we can play, kids in these games. And because it's like, well, you can't change it. Sure you can. It's called an amendment.
But you've got to
you have to get both sides of the table.
Yeah.
Sitting there and do it. And I would think that and I don't know for sure, man. I don't know the legalese on this sort of bargaining, but like, I would think that the MLSPA would be able to get to the table and say, like, hey, man, look, we don't want to play in this. If you're going to do it, like, let's discuss rule changes so you can just, we don't have to. So we can let the kids play.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the easiest solution here.
Yeah. So Four Card is looking for a summary because he's been driving. So basically,
Jesus, good luck.
Well, no, here's the Cliff's Notes. We all know about the angst right now with Major League Soccer and the U.S. Soccer Federation over the Open Cup. MLS wanted to play their next pro teams in Open Cup. U.S. Soccer came out this morning and basically said, blank you in the perch and the horse you rode in on. Perch and rotate is basically what the U.S. Soccer Federation said this morning. And so now everyone and their mother is coming out with at least a 3-sentence press release trying to get their say on the record in all of this. So right now where we are, MLS wants MLS Next Pro teams to compete in Open Cup this year. U.S. Soccer basically said blank no. And so now we are to the point to where, okay, now where do we go? And the idea is, at least here, that if we have a redo of what we saw last season with the LAFC Monterey Bay match, you've got to figure out ways, if you are parent clubs, to figure out how you can address your roster rules to let younger players play that are not under first-team contracts. So that's where we are here with all of this. It's roster compliance and probably having MLS's response, obviously. So MLS's response in the press release after so MLS recently proposed. Here we go. Here's the press release again. As of 10:04 this morning. Hour number 2, literally, we started this conversation, Dylan Butler breaking news. So MLS recently proposed to U.S. Soccer a plan, and I'll kind of buzz through it, to represent the league in the Open Cup. MLS took that step because it believes there are several essential goals and concerns that must be addressed in connection with the tournament including developing young professional players and providing them with greater opportunity to play before fans in meaningful competitions in a tournament setting, prioritizing player health and safety, reducing schedule congestion for MLS clubs, and enhanced investment from U.S. Soccer. So basically, MLS is saying that they want their younger athletes to play to help out with reducing schedule congestion, player health and safety, and giving the young guys a chance to play. U.S. Soccer has subsequently notified MLS that the federation is not prepared to grant the necessary waiver for MLS Next Pro clubs owned by MLS owners to participate in Open Cup, but you will get Chattanooga FC and Carolina Core competing because they're independently owned. MLS is committed to finding a viable solution for the 2024 tournament, working to find a pathway that addresses its goals and concerns. Moving forward, MLS will remain focused on increasing opportunities for up-and-coming players, a key component of the league's player development strategy that ultimately benefits the U.S. national team. So U.S. Soccer basically said blank no to the idea of MLS Next Pro teams being a part of it. And then MLS came out with this particular statement saying, okay, this is why we did it, and now we want to, we're going to keep working toward a solution. So that's where we are. But once again, the MLSPA here, I think, is the fulcrum in this argument, because they have to figure out ways that the collective bargaining agreement is not violated, still getting the chance for folks to younger athletes to play. And so that's where we are. So while we have come up with a lot of ideas here this morning in the last 50 minutes, our ideas are contingent upon really what the CBA can and cannot allow. And so this is where the conversation, you're on an Instagram live for a high school kid. Happy National Signing Day. And that was the other thing, Ricky. Happy National Signing Day for those who celebrate. Happy Schedule Day. We'll probably end up talking about that tomorrow because we're going off the air in 13 minutes. Nothing has been announced yet. They're probably going to let this try and cool off a little bit before they start announcing schedules. So middle of the afternoon probably is when they're going to start announcing things, or maybe lunch. But it is not as simple as Major League Soccer and the U.S. Soccer Federation. It is not that simple, where you come up with an agreement, you sit there, let's expand rosters. Not that simple. You have to have the MLSPA engaged because of the collective bargaining agreement. Will you have more situations in an Open Cup where it's like LAFC and Monterey Bay? I think that's what you're gunning for. You will have those chances, unless there's a team like a Sporting Kansas City that is having an awful season, may not make the playoffs, and then they'll chase after an Open Cup title because it's a trophy. But the key here is, once again, taking all of these parties into a room behind smoked glass, lock the door, and I said smoked, translucent glass so no one can see through.
Get the fancy glass, like the. I think it scrambles the electrons in it, like where you just hit it's like clear glass, then you like hit a switch and it turns opaque.
See, like we had in Ted Lasso in the office with Keely's character. Where Keely Jones had the glass that just that'd be kind of cool. So it has to do with getting all these folks on speaker or folks in a room, but it's got to include the MLSPA, because you've got to look at the collective bargaining agreement and see where, if the parent club is in Open Cup, how they can allot for, once again, and I would say use that LAFC 2 example against Monterey Bay. How did they make that happen? How did Steve Cherundolo make that happen in the round of 32? Use that as your guidepost. Sit there and say, yes, MLS first teams, they're still going to be involved. But look at that game in the round of 32. Find out how LAFC made those machinations happen with barely any first-teamers that were getting minutes. And have that as your guidepost when it comes to the teams playing in Open Cup going forward. How did LAFC do that against Monterey Bay? Use that as your guidepost going forward. That, to me, is how you look at this. But once again, the conversation has to be between U.S. Soccer, Major League Soccer, and the MLSPA. You cannot leave the MLSPA and the CBA agreement out of collective bargaining agreement out of this. You cannot leave the CBA out. And if this means that because of all of these conversations where you have the glass that goes completely and totally opaque at the flick of a switch and a speakerphone where you can't hear outside the soundproof glass, that you end up making roster changes or you make eligibility changes or what have you, rule changes in Major League Soccer, then maybe you've opened another door to competition and making it, addressing the concerns that Major League Soccer put out there. But it's these three parties that have to hash this out, despite all of the noise that we're seeing from everybody and their mother wanting to put out an opinion and a press release about how they feel about it. You're going to see a lot more 3 and 4 sentence JPEGs posted to social media today by anybody who wants to dive in and have an opinion. You're going to see it.
Yeah, it's just the way it's going to work. I mean, the conversation's not over. Like, MLS teams wouldn't come into this thing for a while anyway. They've got time to figure this out. To discuss it.
Yeah, you still have folks that are qualifying rounds and all that kind of stuff, and so we're
getting excited. Like, we're gearing up emotionally for Apotheos's run.
Yes,
with new venue, new coach, all that jazz. And yeah, like that's lower levels, and that's going to get in, and then you.
And he was going to start.
My only, no matter what happens here,
mm-hmm.
my only request is that we keep the CONCACAF spot available, because if MLS doesn't take part in this, if they cannot get themselves on level footing in a reasonable manner, I am actively begging that we keep that spot so that we can, and then I hope we get another upset.
Oh yeah.
Where we end up with an NPSL team winning the cup.
Oh.
Or an MLS or a USL League One team winning the cup.
There you go. And then dropping into the Triple C. Then dropping into the Triple C. That would be amazing. That would be very cool. Let's see. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and things left unsaid before we go. According to Ben Jacobs, the situation with Ivan Toney remains the same as reported in November. He would welcome an Arsenal offer. Chelsea recruitment teams divided on whether to move. Toney's on the list of options, but not necessarily on the top of the list as it stands. Apparently, Russia is staying in UEFA, courtesy of our friends at Agence France Presse. Russian Football Association Wednesday voted against leaving UEFA to join the Asian Football Confederation despite having been banned from the European body over the conflict in Ukraine. Quote from the VP of the Russian Football Union, Ahmed Ayadimirov. Good for you. It was on TASS. We will fight for Europe. Russia is Europe. We will win, is one of the quotes. As part of the ban introduced 4 days after the invasion, Russia was barred from taking part in the Euro 2024's. Decision to leave UEFA and join AFC would have had consequences, primarily financial ones for Russian clubs, especially those involved in European competitions like Champions League. Russian officials also said football's international governing body, FIFA, could refuse efforts by Moscow to join the AFC. We unanimously voted against since there are no guarantees from FIFA. Mikhail Gershkovich, a member of the RFU, told state-run news agency RIA Novosti. Gershkovich was cited as saying Moscow would continue contacts with UEFA. Let's see how the situation develops next year, according to Gershkovich. Let's see. Player gossip. Who's going where? And then we'll finish up with what you can watch. Although, once again, schedule release day. Happy schedule release day. Happy National Signing Day for those who celebrate. Spurs looked at Genoa center back Radu Dragusin as a center back target, expected to cost £26 million should he move in the January window. Real Madrid set to make a shock move to sign Mauro Icardi. Mauro and Wanda heading to Real Madrid, according to Marca, possibly from Galatasaray. Oh my goodness! And this is that's what Wanda is looking for. I think Wanda, Jared, is done with. I think Wanda's done with taking over Istanbul and Turkey and Real Madrid. You know that Wanda will definitely enjoy her time if that deal comes to pass.
Oh my God, that'll be can't miss entertainment.
Yeah.
We will all benefit from that insanity. We should consider ourselves so lucky.
Yes, absolutely. Dortmund interested in Spurs' Sergio Reguilon, who's on loan at Manchester United. He's got a clause to end the loan in his contract. Brentford have warned Arsenal and Chelsea they'll have to pay a decent fee if they want to sign Ivan Toney. Then they're talking like $100 million. Spurs, Villa, Brighton have made contact with Juve about Samuel Ayling Jr., although no offers have been made yet. Leipzig interested in signing Jadon Sancho, but matching the wages could be a problem for the club. While Sancho could leave Manchester United expecting to make any major signing in January, Director of Football John Murtaugh has told fans. Fulham and Joao Palhinha no longer a target for Liverpool in January. Other clubs want him, however. Bayern Munich consider him to be too expensive. Newcastle have opened talks with English midfielder Lewis Miley, 17, over signing a long-term deal when he turns 18 later this season. It's about controlling the asset, people. That is what this is always about. Arsenal sporting director Edu has decided to block advances for center back Jakob Kivior in the January window. Preston North End are interested in signing Manchester United's midfielder Dan Gore on loan for the rest of the year. Copenhagen are ready to sell 18-year-old Swedish winger Rooney Bargi, a target for Chelsea, Man U, Spurs, and in January. Also, Troy Deeney is now taking over at Forest Green Rovers as the new man in charge on the touchline. So keep an eye on that one. What to watch and where to watch it. Ligue 1 is on, and the Turkish Super League are on BN and BN in Espanol. If you don't have BN, you can get BN at fntz.co/soccer down here. It helps out the network, helps out them as well. If you need Teise, CDO for the fans, Brasileiro, BN, that's the place to go to get all that stuff. Jason got me hooked. I blame him. CBS Sports Network has Coppa Italia at 3 with Inter and Bologna. BN in Espanol once again simulcasting French Ligue 1 at 3, Turkish Super League, Galatasaray, and Fatih Karagümrük at noon. Deportes, ESPN Deportes, Barcelona, Almeria at 1, Athletic Club in Las Palmas at 3:30. Gold TV on Fanatis Dutch Cup Feyenoord and Utrecht at 3. DAZN has Women's Champions League doubleheader at 12:45, doubleheader at 3. ESPN Plus has the Gummy Bear Cup at 3 o'clock, Liverpool, West Ham. 6 matches in the Bundesliga, 5 of them at 2:20, the others at 12:20. La Liga, it is 3 matches, 1 at 1, Barcelona and Almeria. Athletic Club, Las Palmas, Villarreal, Celta de Vigo at 3:20, and Paramount Plus has the Coppa Italia once again, Inter and Bologna at 3 o'clock. Jarrett, last thoughts before we get out of here, because everyone's putting out press releases. Is it true? Julian is official to Miami, right?
I don't know if it's official yet, but it's kind of like that. It's like the worst kept secret right now.
Yeah.
We'll see how he fits. We know what he can do with the ball, but dude, if you play a 3-man back line, do you play like wing back is where he is at his best? You still have
Andre Yedlin.
You still have a national team level player in Yedlin who's there. So it's just, how do you fit it? If you play a 4-man back line, you can play Yedlin there and play Gressel up there and try and create gravity away from him. We'll see how it works. You trust Todd to figure those things out. Reiterating, give me like a USL League 1 team winning the cup or a NPSL team winning the cup so that we have one of those in CONCACAF Champions Cup. That's all I want.
Yep. Oscar Pareja signs a new contract at Orlando City. They didn't mess that up.
As you should.
Yeah, Nashville SC has signed forward Forster Iago. Duke forward through the 24 season, options extending through 27. Ghanaian was not selected in the SuperDraft, making him eligible to sign with Nashville. 14 goals, 4 assists in 18 games. Second team All-America, ACC Offensive Player of the Year, Mac Hermann Trophy semifinalist. Adds to the depth chart, along with Surridge, Bunbury, and Adem Sipic, who's the homegrown that got to play at Hunt City and got some time there as well. So, so that's where we are. Everybody's going to put out press releases. Everybody's going to show how mad they are. They're going to stomp their feet in 3 and 4 paragraph and sentence form all day long about what's going on with Open Cup and Major League Soccer, and everybody's going to have their say tomorrow, because today is supposed to be schedule release day. We'll talk about schedule release and all those places that we'd like to go and where we could go, but we'll see home openers and that kind of a thing. So schedule release probably later today, and we will continue to discuss that again tomorrow. Nico Moreno joining us at 10:30. And if you missed it, interview with Bev Yanez, the head coach at Racing Louisville. That got posted yesterday on the network. It was a really good conversation with her about her taking the gig at Racing Louisville and what it's like for her to be a head coach now in the NWSL. And she is excited as all get out to get moving as the head coach at Racing Louisville. So, Jared, if you would please, since you are here and we've made it to the end of the show, if you would please go ahead and send us home. What he said. We'll be back at it 9:05 tomorrow morning, and maybe we'll talk schedules and not see people doing press releases about Open Cup. End of the show. Play it safe. Mucho Platel. It means we get to do this.